Hi YouTube, Cortland Wheeler here. I wanted to give you a life update on what I've been up to for the past few months and some recent tragic news. So you may remember that we left Florida in April and we traveled for a while, mostly exploring the Rocky Mountains out west, and did adventure vlogs out there, which you can see. They're a lot of fun. Did some videos out there. And I ran Hellbender and had a DNF. I failed to finish that race. And then I trained very hard in the Rocky Mountains and tried to do back-to-back 100-mile races, High Lonesome 100 and Ute 100 on back-to-back weekends. And they're both tough mountain 100-mile races in the Rocky Mountains at elevation with a lot of climbing, a lot of like 4,000 foot climbs out there. High Lonesome was not successful. In fact, I made it 25 miles or so to like the high point of the race, 13,150 feet on the shoulder of Mount Antero, which is a 14er in the Sawatch Range. And on the descent down from the shoulder of Antero there, I had a problem with my IT band. It tightened up, and I ended up walking 12 miles to see if I could ease up on the tension in my IT band and be able to continue the race and finish it. So I think I made it to about 37 miles and then decided that it just wasn't going to happen to finish High Lonesome 100. So that was unfortunate. But then I was worried because only a week later was the Ute 100. And I decided for the first time on these mountain races to try using poles, the hiking poles, to take the weight off my knees and off that IT band that was giving me an issue. And I went out and ran Ute 100 and succeeded. It was a very good race. It was like a lot of things came together. Like my failure in the mountains with Hellbender and High Lonesome, I kind of connected what it takes to finish. Having enough warm clothing, because the mountains get cold at night, and the mountains get cold even when you're just up high, like 12, 13,000 feet, or even out east for Hellbender, just being up like 4, 5, 6,000 feet up, because then the prominence of those mountains makes it cold up there. Like the prominence is like the distance from the surrounding area up to the mountaintop area, so that it cools off with the air. Is much cooler as you're up, and if you're like up at 5, 6,000 feet out east in the Appalachian Mountains, or if you're like 10, 11, 12, 13,000 feet in the Rocky Mountains, the prominence cools off the air up there. So I learned that I need to have warm clothing to keep myself warm in order to succeed. And with Ute, I ran with enough warm clothing to not get that feeling of hypothermia and the cold weather, like negative thoughts that creep in. And then the other thing was running with hiking poles, taking that weight off my joints, because those mountain descents really bang you up pretty bad. And the climbs too, being able to use my arms. Like I'm a runner who actually has a little bit of upper body strength, so I might as well put that to some use. And I grew up cross-country skiing, so it just made sense to bring the poles along and be able to support some of my body weight and help me get up those climbs, help take some of the impact force off my joints from the descents of those mountains. So it all came together for me in Ute 100, and I had a good race, and I finished strong, got to sprint it in. Me and this other runner were sprinting like the last mile against each other, and it came down to I was probably like 10 feet ahead of him in a 34-hour finish race and 100 miles out there. It was cool to have that sprint to the finish. It was a very good experience at Ute 100 in the La Salle Mountains near Moab. So after that, we had spent the summer, we'd spent like 5 months from April to August traveling, and it was a great experience living out of our van, which we converted from a cargo van to a camper van. And then we decided money was running a little bit low, so we would return to Florida just for a brief time and save up some money and be able to make another, to be able to hopefully move out west to Colorado or Arizona, somewhere around there. So we were traveling back to Florida, and we were passing through Austin, Texas, when traffic was backed up and we were just stopped, a stationary vehicle, just stopped in traffic, in rush hour traffic, and our vehicle was struck from behind, rear-ended at probably 50, 60 miles per hour. We were pushed off the road, and our vehicle was totaled. We actually were pushed off the road down a slope and took down a street sign, a right lane must turn right street sign. So we ended up getting stuck in Austin, Texas, having to deal with the insurance company for 12 days. And we were dealing with whiplash issues and having all of our stuff away from us because our vehicle was towed to like a tow yard. And it was a difficult process there, having to deal with the insurance companies. But after 12 days, we got it figured out, and we had a rental car and put all our belongings, everything we owned was in that van, into this little rental car and went back to Florida, having to start over completely new, having to buy a new van, and now we're looking at the months ahead. We've started converting the new van to be a livable home again, like our other van was. But during that period, this is where it relates back to ultrarunning, I went about a month to a month and a half without running, both from the trauma of the accident, of like the whiplash and back issues, and being separated from our belongings, having to deal with the insurance companies, and just trying to get our life back together, trying to figure out everything we needed to deal with jobs. And so without running for a month and a half, trying to get back into running when I was in Florida, starting fresh, like I wanted to do the Miami 100. My friend Louis Coco, who paced me 50 miles of the 200 mile Skydive 200, I wanted to do his Miami 100-mile race, and I wasn't able to do that because I hadn't ran for the month and a half or so after Ute 100, after the car wreck. And I just knew I wasn't at the fitness level to do it, and I wanted to, but between recovering from the accident and the car wreck, as I don't like to call it an accident, I like to call it a car wreck. More accurately describes what we went through. And then trying to get our life back together, Miami 100 unfortunately did not happen. So I'm looking ahead to what I want to do in the future now, and I might want to take a totally different direction. I've been doing some of these mountain races like Hellbender, High Lonesome, Ute 100. I might want to do something totally drastically different, do FASTtrack 24-hour race, which is a 400-meter track, just like a standard track and field track. And I spend 24 hours and just run as many loops as I can on that track. I kind of like the appeal of going to the opposite extreme of doing these 100-mile, like non-repeating loop courses in the mountains to go into 24 hours on the track. It's just the craziness of the polar opposite race conditions is appealing to me. So I think I might want to go for that. And what's really cool about that is when I ran the Keys 100, which is the largest 100-mile race in Florida, somewhere around like 120 people race it. Actually now, I suppose the long haul will be the new largest 100-mile race in Florida, because I think there's 200 entrants in that now. But there was a big push to get that to be a Western States qualifier this year. But Keys 100 was historically, recently, the largest 100-mile race in Florida, and I came in second overall as first male finisher, and that was my golden ticket to the Badwater 135, which I ended up not doing for financial reasons mostly, and not wanting to put my wife through the support crew in Death Valley. So the one person that beat me in Keys 100 is Allie Venti, she's now married as Allie Allen. And she's doing FASTtrack 24-hour race on the track. And so that's cool. So I'll be able to run with her again there. And other very elite runners. Pete Kostelnik was in it last year. He's a phenomenal runner. Harvey Lewis ran it last year. Megan Alvarado ran it last year. These are phenomenal world-class runners. And that would be really cool to be able to run with them on the track, the 400-meter track, and to be able to try to like with these long races when they're point to point or 100-mile loop, you get so spread out that you don't really get to experience the other competitors. And what would be really cool about the FASTtrack 24-hour would be my other competitors, I would be able to be within eyesight of them the whole time. And I think that might really drive me to be more competitive than I have been recently in these adventure type races out in the mountains. So that's been on my mind lately. The other thing I wanted to talk about was just a new training approach that I've been doing. I like to kind of just vary it up with my training, do some strength training, like I'll do body weight squats and push-ups. And that's been more recently in the past like year and a half since I've been doing some of these mountain races, doing more like strength training like that. But my training, I've gone from doing like 2 and 3 a day workouts, like running 20 or 30 minutes in the morning, running 20 or 30 minutes in the afternoon, sometimes running another 30 minutes at night. And this, what I've been doing a little bit more recently since I've been getting back into running after the car wreck, I've been doing some 2-hour runs, like 2 to 2.5 hour runs. And I won't do it every day, I'll do it every 2 or 3 days. But it's just cool to try a new style of training and see how it will pay off when I go to, assuming I get to go out and run FASTtrack 24-hour and I'm healed up and recovered enough and fit enough to run in that. It'll be cool to see if that pays off, that new technique of training of like every 2 or 3 days I go out and run 2 hours to 2.5 hours. I guess lastly, to finish up this video, I want to say that I have had struggles in the mountains between Hellbender and High Lonesome and not succeeding there, and then Ute, things came together, and I'm not nearly as competitive at these mountain races. It's clear, it's obvious, but they still hold this awesome appeal to me. These beautiful landscapes, these epic challenges, these 4,000-foot climbs, the thinner air, the technical terrain, the beautiful, beautiful landscapes and also the kind of the threat and the intimidating factor of being in the woods and being on this really harsh terrain out there. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about doing this race, the Ouray 100, and it's probably the hardest 100-mile race in the world that people actually regularly finish, like that a non-professional athlete could do. There's a few races. There's Baldy's Mountain 100-mile race, which is like the Western version of the Barclays Marathon. And there's this new one, the Highlander 100, which no one's ever finished those races. And the fact that no one's ever finished it means you probably need someone like a really elite athlete just to be able to finish one of those races. So Ouray is probably the hardest 100-mile race based on the numbers that I've looked up, like the elevation change. The elevation gain is about 42,000 feet of climbing, whereas High Lonesome was like 20 something, and Hellbender was like 25 or 26,000 feet of gain. So this one, Ouray, 42,000 feet of gain. To put that in perspective, Hard Rock 100 is considered a very difficult 100, and that's around like 33,000 feet of gain. And UTMB might be somewhere around 30,000 as well. So Ouray outclasses those as far as the elevation gain. And then you're also at high altitude. The high point is 13,600 feet in that race. So that one holds a very special appeal to me, that even though I haven't always had success in the mountains with like Hellbender and High Lonesome, I think that I've learned from my mistakes out there, and I think I may want to go for that challenge. And I can't get into High Lonesome this year, again, because it's sold out in 9 minutes, which is insane. That's crazy that it sold out that fast. I'm so happy for the race director, Caleb. He's a great guy. I got to meet him a few times. And even though I wasn't ultimately successful in his race, I even went to his little training run that he did. It's like a 20-25 mile training run in the Salwatch Mountains, and got to chat with him. He's a super cool guy. I'm super stoked for him to have his race sell out in 9 minutes. It's phenomenal. And Ute, which I finished, so I wouldn't do again this year because I succeeded out there. Ute sold out in 20 minutes. So I'm looking at this race, Ouray, and I'm thinking there's such a high demand for these really tough mountain races that I may have to commit and sign up for Ouray so it doesn't sell out too. I don't know if it would sell out with that kind of crazy stats, like 42,000 feet of gain with a high point of 13,600. It may not sell out. I don't think it has in previous years because it's just so intimidating. It's just so out there and epic and tough. But I may want to commit early to that race, like in the next few weeks, to sign up for it, because I just don't want to lose a challenge like that when it's on the back of my mind. Like, I'd like to do that. I'd like to do that. Ouray 100. So for this upcoming year, 2019, I may end up doing two polar opposite races. I may end up doing FASTtrack 24-hour race on a 400-meter track against some of the toughest competition in the world, and being able to see them and eye them the whole 24 hours. And then I may end up trying to do this crazy, like possibly world's toughest 100-mile race that people actually finish every year. Ouray 100 out in the San Juan Mountains with 42,000 feet of climbing and high point of 13,600 feet. So totally different races, but those are the two races right now that are really appealing to me. And as long as I can recover from this car wreck, get my body back in shape, I'm training again, I'm feeling good about how it's going, still dealing with some issues, still going to chiropractor and seeking therapy and treatment for that. But I'm feeling positive for this upcoming year, 2019. So thanks for watching this video and the life update, and thanks for watching. Like my video, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you think. All right, bye.